Alright, let's have the conversation about what everyone's been thinking about, but nobody's really talking about just yet. Hello everyone, and it's been about a month and a half since Creative Assembly decided to make a lot of announcements. Total War Warhammer 40k, a brand new game that a lot of people have been, kind of expecting for some time now. Medieval 3, we're finally getting another historical game, which we're going to have to talk about a little bit in this video. The confirmation of Lords of the End Times, a pretty big DLC that a lot of people were waiting for. And not only that, but a very soft confirmation about a character pack for Grand Cathay. So 2 DLCs for Warhammer 3. Now that all sounds really exciting, but the big problem is Creative Assembly went dark. As always, and it's kind of frustrating. Yes, I do understand that Creative Assembly had to break for Christmas because this is something that a lot of companies do around that period, but we are in January now and nothing's really been going on. In fact, I think Creative Assembly have just basically gone dark for the weirdest way possible, barring just like the announcement of obviously the hotfix coming out of beta and also a million wish lists for Total War Warhammer 40k, which everyone kind of expected. It's something that is going to sell regardless because it's 40k and anyone will buy it. But you'd think there'd be a lot more coming out, more scheduled posts, some information dumps. Keep that momentum going rather than just treating it like if it was a shit show, because this is what they normally do with their shit shows. Which is funny because this is all, in theory, very good news. Even I've been calling out for a historical game for some time now because it's been a while and we desperately need one. And just more information going on, especially after the year of constant droughts. There's enough material to talk about here to actually keep things kind of consistent through separate titles to make sure that everyone is talking about Total War all the time, right? That's something that you'd expect from a company which has just celebrated its 25th anniversary, right? Keep that momentum going. Keep the hype going, especially after Creative Assembly have gone on record saying that they want to turn things around, saying that they want to kind of change the meaning of the future of Total War to be very bright and bubbly. Well, the best way to do that is communication, and there's a lot to talk about regarding that because it's going to be a while. We have to keep that in mind that a lot of these things aren't going to be coming out anytime soon. Probably the Cafe DLC first, but it would be great to start seeing a little bit more. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about each of the different sections and just kind of dissect it a little bit because I think that's kind of important. So we'll start off with Lords of the End Times. This one's already big hype. We've got a lot of information about it, so not a lot is expected in terms of info dumps just now. Hell, I don't expect the release of Lords of the End Times until around December next year, which is why I think we're going to get the Cafe DLC first. But right now it would be good just to get closer and closer, a little bit more of in-depth look towards everything, because we have gotten some details regarding, changes to the map and obviously more chaos corruption stuff. We've got a few factions that haven't been revealed yet, so it would be nice to get that information. And hell, not everything has been said about Nagash just yet. We do know that there's other things coming for him. But if the End Times DLC is going to be as big as I imagine it to be, there's going to be a need for loads of other things too. We can more or less hypothesize what factions are going to be in there, like the Skaven and stuff, but some confirmation would be great, and some details, because people are curious. I really do think Nurgle's going to be a part of it too, because they were a big part of the End Times, and we're still kind of missing a few things there too. Faction effects, stuff like that would be great to find out now. Not everything, obviously, because things are going to change, and I think that's probably why Creative Assembly are going to keep very quiet here. But if there's going to be 4 or 5 factions total, yeah, they have to start dropping off information. Hopefully a lot of stuff is locked down. We don't need another situation with Tides of Torment where they delayed it a number of times just to get it out there, because, yeah, that can be a problem. That can be an absolute problem. Here's hoping that we're not going to be seeing a lot of delays this year. Now, admittedly, I'm much more curious about the Cafe DLC than I am for the Lords of the End Times. Mainly because, one, Cafe is cool, right? And we don't really know anything about it. So everything that would be in here is completely and totally new to us, which is fantastic. 2, it's supposed to be a new format, right? Character packs is something that I myself have been calling out for years now. Small style DLCs. Again, you can check through my channel. I've mentioned character packs constantly because it should, in theory, increase the cadence of when we get DLCs out, and it can be more specialized into certain locations. Cafe getting a character pack makes sense because there's a lot of missing characters that we are aware of, if we're going to be getting those. There's a lot of units that we are kind of aware of. It's been spoken about in interviews and stuff, but we don't really know what they would be interpreted as. I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of curious to see what happens with Cafe as a map, right? Because obviously one of these characters would have to be outside of Cathay. It's already kind of chock-a-block as it is, but it would be kind of cool to see, an expansion down there. Like, this could be the Monkey King for all we know, and then it is in Cathay, well, in the mountains between Cathay and Ind. But we do know of so many, character names of potential characters. That's the problem. We don't know if they're alive at this point or they're alive in the past. So I'm not going to, bore you with names at the moment. The most important thing I think that most people want is the Monkey King and one of the 2 remaining dragons that are active, Yin Yin or Li Dao. Time will tell, but some information here or some hints starting off would be great, just to get the ball rolling and start getting people hyped up. That is, of course, if this DLC is first, which I do believe it will be first because it's smaller, so it's easier to produce. Unless they really want the end time stuff out, which I very much doubt it, because it's going to take a while. From what has been said, it does sound like it's going to be quite the thorough project. Total War 40k is the next big one. We know that this is going to be the next title, so that's a lot of hype. Again, weird that they've just jumped in, announced it, and that's it. They did a little interview with some press, and that's it, I guess. Now, don't get me wrong, this is what Creative Assembly normally do, and it's been something for a while now where, yeah, they'll announce a title, go dark, and then just talk about it 4 or 5 months down the line. I don't think that that's going to be too viable, especially as 40k is getting more and more popular, and we are very likely going to go towards 11th edition now. That's something that everyone's kind of expecting because of the 3-year cycle for the tabletop. Getting that hype rolling before that is probably the best momentum choice, because once 11th edition hits, everyone is going to be hyped up with everything 40k related. I mean, don't get me wrong. Look, I'm pretty hyped up with 40k stuff. I just painted up a brand new Kill Team early access. Thank you to Games Workshop once again, as per usual. I mean, it's Chaos Space Marines. Who doesn't love painting Chaos Space Marines, right? Even with the trim. But it's important because when we talk about 40k, there's so much that can be talked about. And there's no info. We know that this is on a brand new engine too, so we need to know a little bit more. The problem here, and I think I would have been more satisfied if the trailer actually had some proper gameplay rather than just 3.5 seconds, which, oh boy, doesn't work. Some people might use the idea of, well, the trailer for Warhammer 3 had nothing, but that's fine because it was supposed to play like Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2. We already knew how that played, but this is a complete new setting with a complete new playstyle. There's going to be a lot more shooting there than there is in fantasy. There needs to be a lot more talk about it. I think I'm kind of annoyed here because one of the problems here is one of the very detailed interviews that went out was on a fucking paywall website, which, again, no. While a lot of people are hyped up, including myself, you still need to win back a lot of trust, especially with how things have been going out of recent years. I'm not saying give out all the information out now, because I sincerely doubt that it's going to release this year, but small blogs will tide people over and will give some much needed context. We don't need to know the exact plot right now, though I imagine it's going to be kind of linked up to whatever 11th edition does, or they might just do the whole 500 worlds thing that's just started, which, I mean, sounds cool enough, but give us detail on combat. Give us detail on construction. Very, very basic blogs once a month would be absolutely wonderful. Twice even more so, because there's a lot to talk about. There's, 4 confirmed factions so far. We know this is going to be a lot of DLC. I imagine that the DLC style will probably be very similar to that of Warhammer 3, because it just kind of makes sense. But I think people want to know about the campaign stylings. There's supposed to be 3 different types. There's supposed to be a lot more to it. Just announcing a project and going completely dark is the same mistake that happened in Warhammer 3, which, it took, 6 months to just reveal the very, very soon pre-order incentive, which was Ogre Kingdoms. And then between that, there was not really that much going on until it started getting closer, and then they just died out. I understand why that happened in Warhammer 3. COVID and everything going on. Now is the time to build up that momentum and get that big push for Total War. That really needs to be done, which, speaking of it, believe it or not, I'm more excited for Medieval 3 than I am for 40k at the moment, because I know how 40k will work. I play the tabletop, I've got armies, and yeah, it's just how it is, right? Medieval 3, however, on a brand new engine, we haven't really had an historical game for a while. I really have been wanting one for a while now. Not only for my own purposes, because, yeah, I do like the historical games too. But largely, the fan base for Medieval has been left rather ignored. Funny enough, however, we got more information on Medieval 3 than we actually got for 40k, which I find is really strange. They did that long stream, which they went into a lot of detail. They did that long interview too. Again, very, very cool. And that actually made me quite excited. The only problem is that we haven't really heard about like some other matters. Like, yeah, you know, you can build castles here and ports there. That's all really, really cool. I want to know about combat. I think one of the biggest flaws that's been happening with Total War lately is that combat has been made incredibly arcadey. I want to see proper medieval battles and see it done well. One thing that I've really kind of noticed is just how better combat is in Attila than Warhammer, which is weird. Like, obviously it's supposed to be very different. There's no magic, there's no single entities, blah, 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 blah. But I want to start seeing more detail regarding that, because what's going to happen with unit stylings, armies. I'd love to know what's going to happen with DLC practices. I know some people are kind of against the idea of DLC, but look, it's just how Total War has always been. It was easy to milk with Warhammer. It's going to be easy to milk with 40k, and I likely believe that it's going to be the same thing with Med 3, where they could do like map expansions and so on. Hell, I mean, look at Crusader Kings. They just expanded the map with the DLC and it kind of worked out quite well. I'd love to have a detailed blog on combat and just other things in general. I think what they did with that stream was fantastic and it really showed off quite a lot. You know, Iberia looks great. And it's making me a little bit hopeful considering how early in production they've claimed it to be, and yet the engine is still allowing them to be in-game just to test stuff out. That's all really good news. Especially since this is a brand new engine. Warcore is a new engine. We have to see how it works. It makes me curious as to why Creative Assembly didn't do some sort of saga just to bring it out and test it out, I guess. See how players react to it. Like, I think a saga would have been useful. The problem is the sagas aren't good. And it's not the fault of, like, the engine, I'd say. I think it's a problem with just the choices. Troy was a cash grab for Epic. Pharaoh is technically a saga. Well, Dynasties isn't, but Pharaoh is. That one's a bit, like, niche, I guess. And the same thing happened to Thrones of Britannia. Like, they were just very, very niche subjects. Nobody's really interested in the niche points. Technically, one of the good sagas would have been the Fall of the Samurai, which was just a standalone expansion to Shogun 2, but it provided a lot of content, and I think a lot of people really did enjoy it, myself included. It's got pretty good naval battles. Maybe they just feel like they don't need a saga, which, if they feel very confident and, you know, already showing stuff in engine is quite good, maybe it's just that Warcore is going to be an answer to a lot of problems. I don't think it's going to solve every problem, keep in mind, because there's design philosophies within Creative Assembly which lead to a lot of issues. I think that's probably the best way of saying it. We're going to have to wait and see, but again, more news, more details on Warcore, that would all be very, very lovely. I just wanted to add a little bit of a talk today. I know I haven't been very consistent since the start of the year. Well, I haven't been consistent for a while now, but I do apologize. I should be getting back into schedule. It's just I've been dealing with so many problems post-move. It's absolutely wild. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. Tomorrow there'll be another video. I'm actually going to sit down and start recording it now, so it's going to be out tomorrow. And hopefully I'll be able to finish off the last race that I need to do for the 100% for Total War Warhammer 3 also, because I've been streaming that inconsistently too. But hopefully that's going to change. Have a good one, guys. And I'll see you all again very, very soon.